What's up, Juventini? Welcome back to the AJC, your channel dedicated to Juventus. It's match day, and oh man, that intro gets me just hyped up.
First
Hyped
time I
up.
hear it.
Omar,
Yeah,
how do you feel about that? I think that's your first rip with that, eh?
yeah. My first time. I had no idea it was coming. That something was wrong with my headphones.
Did you like it? What'd you think?
Oh, absolutely,
There we go.
absolutely.
There we go.
Yeah.
Everybody in the
Distortion guitar
chat
and
here.
double bass.
Trim. We got Trim fresh back from the motherland, man. Italy. How was the trip there? Oh, I think you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that. Just shaking off the rust a bit. I was gonna say you'd have to peel me off the pavement, man. I didn't want to come back at all. I just felt like I was stuck there, man. Jeez, but yeah, no, it's good to be back though. I'm really looking forward to watch some Juventus games, man. Serie A's back finally. It's nice to get off of that lull week of an international break, and yeah, it's just fucking let's go. I'm excited, man.
There you go. There you go. We're all excited to get back to the games. The international break finally over. We got a tricky little week ahead of us. And is it Dougie time? It's Dougie time. Everybody getting ramped up here, hopefully to see him in that starting lineup. Now, there has been contradictions. We will tackle that and, of course, talk about it. But there is some news that's been flowing around this past week. And we're going to tackle all of it and go through it together. And quickly say what's up to everybody that's in the chat here. All right, we got Iorio coming in here. We got Cugino Eddie. Ciao tutti. Ciao everybody. Good morning to George. We're ready to rock. We're getting fired up. People are starting to roll in here, and Juve's back, and this is always fantastic. And we are going to tackle, like I said, all the topics leading into this game, talk about the lineup, and get ready and fired up for Empoli and how everybody's thinking this game is going to go. And yeah, the kits, holy smokes, guys. The saga ends, and I finally received the kits I was waiting for. This goalie one was one of them. I absolutely love these kits. This
The
goalkeeper
hour
one,
landed.
slick, just absolutely slick. So yeah, thank you for sorting this out finally, Juve Store. It only took 3 or 4 customer care emails, 2 phone calls, each around like 2 hours, close to 2 hours long on the telephone for them to sort it out. All right, but you guys managed to get it done.
You're being
Thank you.
petty.
What's that?
Yeah.
You're being petty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm being petty. Customer service. Let's go. Let's go. 2011-12, did you just get that kit? If you ordered it, then you might have just got it now.
Yeah, my owl has landed with the package finally.
No, I'm just excited they finally got here. I thought after that whole ordeal, watch them show up and be the wrong package or something ridiculous. But yeah, worked out. Love them. Now, let's get to the news. First things first. We got to start things off with the women's side because Layman taking heat, all right, for some comments made during the interview. I'm going to say this real quick. I didn't personally find that quote that was posted. So I read what I saw in her interview, and nowhere in it did I see that. So I'm not going to suggest that it was fabricated, okay? But I'm just going to address it for everyone that was battling. This thing became such a massive battle, and it's really cut and dry. Like, if anybody should know, it should be Alicia, because her entire move was funded by the men's side because the finances just aren't there on the women's side. It's just period. It's that simple. As far as this equal pay thing, the women need to realize that revenue needs to be there. You need to get the revenue up, and until that goes up there, what are you doing? Where is the money going to come from? If it isn't there, it's just not going to come. So to continue to fight that battle, it's not apples to apples. And number one, the men's side, how long has it taken for the game to get financially to where it is, even for the men? Like, do you think Pele was making Ronaldo money? No, it wasn't even close. It's gradually come up over how many years? The women have just started hitting stride. It'll come. Everybody needs to pump the brakes, but these women can't just keep jumping in there. What they need to focus on is boosting revenue and exposure. And everyone that's trying to help the women's game, exposure is key. We talked about this a lot in the group chat. It's like, where's the storylines, right? Like, where's the storylines? What's hook you? What's going to get you to watch? Like, you need some of these. You need some of these storylines. And there's like, well, the men's game's full of characters. How would you know if the women's game's got any characters? You never hear about them. You never hear anything about it. So it's just worlds apart. So when this battle comes up and they say they're doing the same thing as the men and getting paid 10, well, they're not generating. In terms of that, it's worlds apart. And somebody combated me and said, well, they're taking all this money. The money's there. Why not spread it out into that and help it grow? Okay. Again, it all goes back to revenue. Rainbows and butterflies world, yeah, we share all our funds from Juve equally amongst the men and the women's side, but why would you do that in a business put into something that isn't giving you return? It makes absolutely no sense. The highest revenue from a women's side a year ago was Barcelona at a whopping 13 million euros revenue. And we are supposed to take funds, according to, some supporters out there of the women's league and everything. We're supposed to take money out of the funds for the first team and everything and fuel that as well. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen until you start putting up. So it takes money to make money. So you could put a little bit in there, but why would they risk it? It makes no sense. Makes no sense. That's just all I got to say on that thing. It's a moot point because exposure needs to be the top key. And I think that they had a shot, and they still do have a shot, and they're making strides. But if they keep coming out talking about this, they're discrediting their own thing. That's all I'm going to say. Omer, anything to add? Trim, anything to add?
Not a lot. I mean, if anyone ever watched the Bill Burr skit on the WNBA, that pretty much sums it up. The money goes where the money is wanted, and sorry, but women's football is not at the top of the list. And like you said, it wasn't in the interview by Alicia. So if it was, I mean, she knows how to run social media. That's saying that will get a lot of clicks and a lot of likes and talking points, and people will go crazy about it, and no bad publicity. And we are talking about it here in the podcast, and there were thousands of retweets, and everyone's talking about it. So if that's what she was trying to achieve, she got it. But just saying that just plain as we play the same sport, why don't we make the same money? That's ignoring everything you know about sports and just trying to complain about something with no point to it. I mean, you can shut that argument down easily. So yeah, it's a moot point. There's no point in arguing about it. The money goes where there's interest, and right now there's not a lot of interest in women's soccer. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's cut and dry. It's all about revenue, period. Trim, anything to add before we start getting into free agent talk? And I know you're waiting for this one.
Yeah, no, there's not much else to really add on it.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I do, like, I don't know about you guys, but I do try to watch a little bit here and there, like more the international side. Club, it's a little bit different. It's not harder, but I don't have as much time to try to keep up with the club football for women's, but it's just to your point, like, I find it more interesting and exciting, I guess you could say, when it's international. Obviously, it'll kind of tie into the free agent talk. Like, I'm a Canadian soccer watcher, so, I'll watch the women's team, I'll watch the men's team when they play. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, when it comes to this specific topic, like, it's about the revenue, and unfortunately, it's just worldwide, it's not as big as the men's game. And that's just it. Like, the men's game's been around longer, right? So just makes more sense from that.
And to even say, like, 13 million was the highest revenue women's side, that was Barca a year ago. Okay, if you're looking at close to top 10, I think it finishes up at around 6 million. Juve wasn't even in there. So that's saying that Juve generated less than 6 million in revenue from their women's side. So what we're supposed to dump more when we're tight. We're still coming back out of deficits, trying to write all the books. It's just not going to happen. It's not rainbows and
And
butterflies. So
Juve are doing a lot for the women's team.
they
Yeah.
are.
Like even bringing in Alicia, now there are talks. Maybe it's already in progress, building them a new stadium along with the next gen somewhere, that they can call home and play. That's a lot of money invested in
They've
something
got to
that
fill those
doesn't
stadiums
generate.
because that's one of
Yeah,
the things too is filling up the
and
stadiums,
yeah,
everything. There's a lot of
you
work to
gotta
be done.
turn to other
Rome
women
wasn't built in
to
a
the
day
stadium.
though, so everyone's got to pump the brakes on that. But like I said, I'm not going to say they fabricate it. Never heard it. Now we get to free agent talk. Apparently, Giuntoli is going to be very active even in January. All right, and Jonathan David is a name that's come up a lot, and there was rumors that Giuntoli would even try to look to maybe spend a bit, as it wouldn't take a bit because Lille's going to be on the brink of losing him for nothing. So maybe that steers them to getting something rather than nothing in January. And Giuntoli wants to beat the rush as there are 4 Prem clubs, Inter and us, all looking at the Canadian national forward. We've also heard rumors about Salah in the summer, etc. We went through the free agent list with Heung-min Son is going to be available. There's several others. Jonathan Tah is going to be available as a center back. So everyone's throwing out these names. We know we've spent so much this past summer, 163.8 million euros. We are going to have to work some free agency. And yeah, some of these names are going to come up. But Jonathan David, it seems like it's either you're in or you're out on this guy, and there's not a lot of in between. I'm kind of on the in between, but Trim, I know every time you bring it up, you're taking a little bit of heat, and even in that members chat there. So fire away with Jonathan David and your thoughts here.
Well, obviously, it comes with a bias because I am Canadian, but at the same time, like putting that aside, like I just really like the player overall. So my whole thought process when it comes to David is I'm not looking at him to replace Vlahovic. I'm looking at him actually as a complementary piece to Dusan because our biggest gripe and issue since Dushan's been around is we've always mentioned he has a hard time getting service or having people help him provide to set him up, right? So Jonathan David's actually really good at that. Last year in the calendar year 2024, he was second amongst all players with goal contributions at 37, only behind Kylian Mbappe at 42. So that's ahead of the likes of Vinicius Jr., Haaland, the list goes on, Rodrigo, all those great players. So my whole thing is if you have an opportunity to get a guy who's on a free or potentially beat the rush and get him this season in January at a lot lesser of a price where we were rumored to be looking at him even last year, and the price tag was upwards of 40. So I don't know. I really like the guy. Again, I know he's Canadian, and that my biggest gripe is rather than looking at a guy's passport and saying, oh well, he's Canadian or he's from North America, he can't play in Serie A or for Juve. It's like maybe that's a hidden gem that you can unlock, and you never know what he can offer. But I just think he would be a really good opportunity at a low cost, and he could definitely benefit from playing with the great players that we have and put him alongside Dusan. Again, not meant for goal scoring per se, but he'll definitely help spread the wealth a bit.
And Hanin is making a note about impossible because he's not a non-European, unless we keep him at this club until the summer. However, I think the kicker there and what they're alluding to is Adzic actually going to next gen. So that's how you get around the but I could be mistaken, but that's what they're actually stating. So yeah, I don't know if it's just signings in total, because I think if that ends up happening and he goes to next gen, it actually opens that up. But regardless, whether he's free in the summer or he's in January, it's literally about Jonathan David. And you can see in the chat here that some of these are going towards Son, and many are going towards Son and looking that route. Omer, let's get your thoughts on Jonathan David. Let's get your thoughts on some of these other guys. Like Son's got quite a few that are saying they'd love to see him at Juventus, and your thoughts on some of these free agents.
Okay, so first of all, if we manage to sell our tour in January, then there's no non-European spot problem. uh, which seems like what they're aiming for. Um, but I don't mind Jonathan David. I mean, I'm looking at the stats now. He's at double digits every season he played, basically at Ghent and Lille. He's a different kind of striker to Dushan, which I like, because we need another options in different games and different scenarios. So his numbers are good. He's still fairly young. What is he, 24?
24, yeah.
Seems like a decent signing. I smell kind of a Jallo deal. But again, Inter interested in four other clubs. The price might be higher. There might be a bidding war for him, but still, I don't mind that signing. Also, a lot of it depends on Dushan's renewal. They are talking about it. It's been circulating in the news. If you see that Dushan is someone who's going to be sold in the summer, then David might not be the way to go. But still, if that and just on the face of it, I would take him. Yeah,
There's
problem.
no, I don't think, think I see a bidding war, especially not from Inter's side, because they just don't have the money to do so. And that's kind of one of the edge Juve has, because Juve could jump in there in January and put something down. As far as the Prem clubs, yeah, they can maybe get in there. That would be something for Lille if you're going into a winter mercado and then all of a sudden now you're getting offers and it turns into something. But most teams, I think, are going to wait for that free. I would even be surprised if Juntali goes in January, but you just never know. That could be one of the highlights hitting that part of the year. We'll talk about it when we get to the rotation and the players, etc. But a Vice Vlahovic has been something everyone talked about for almost the entire summer. And before the final week of the Mercado, we were talking about the attack being one of our biggest concerns. As far as Jonathan David goes, I see the comments in here. It kind of makes me laugh because of the whole Canadian thing and everything. But listen, I've been saying the same thing with the Italians. And I said, guys, it's not the time to worry about nationalities whatsoever. It's about building the squad and everything. If I'm looking at Jonathan David right now, it makes sense. I'm actually not big on Jonathan David. And Trim knows this, and I've brought it up many times. I think he's a good player. I'm not crazy about him by any means. If there's a Canadian player I'm looking at on a free, it's Alphonso Davies, because I've always loved Alphonso Davies.
But that's like a 20 million salary.
Yeah, well, it is now, and depending who's waiting to go in on him, it probably is going to stay the same. But if there's a Canadian player I'm looking at on a free or going for, it would be Alphonso Davies. Jonathan David is a good player. But for me, it's what are the alternatives, okay? And right now, if you're looking at that price range, like of potentially a free with a very low salary, it's slim pickings. Who comes close at a low fee that could probably give you that type of output? And then you get into the discussions about output, where he's playing, French league, versus all this. It's still low risk. We would never lose on Jonathan David. So again, who's the alternatives? But if you're talking about a free for some, well, I don't know if he's going to play the same role. He wouldn't really be playing the same role now, would he?
What would his salary be also? Because like you said, that's another point, is it ties into, we have not been really linked to many other strikers at that level in terms of production. That's my big thing with David. And again, it's as a rotational or backup to Dushan, not he's going to overtake Dushan and we're going to put him on the bench. Like you have to, everybody's got to be kind of reasonable in terms of like the way we're looking at this particular player, right? Son on a free, yeah, that'd be nice, but what's his salary? What would it be?
And as a rotational piece, there are some that are still saying sell Dushan, bring in David. I'm not there. I'm not there. Not at that level for sure. But as a rotational piece, the deal would not be something we lose on. It's just, I don't know. There's something about his game I'm not the biggest fan of. But until I see an alternative that is low cost, that has numbers comparable, that is producing some, because at the end of the day, what are we saying? If you're going to look at somebody that's not producing, but is also cheap. Well, that's not ideal either. You want somebody that's at least ripping. So don't worry about so much where he's at. The fact is he is producing. Would you rather us sign somebody cheap that isn't producing those numbers that are very good? Did you bring up the stats? I might have missed it, Trim.
Yeah, he's second. Last year, he was second amongst all players in goal contributions at 37, and Mbappe was the only one ahead of him with 42. That's across all competitions, goals, assists.
Yeah, so it's, again, well, David's not the end of the world if we end up going that route. But Son, yeah, a lot like that. We'll see what he does. But the rumor, again, was that Giuntoli could be active in January with 3 moves. And then you get to Danilo and Artur as exits. With Danilo, the status is the same. It's 50% of the matches, and then that famous automatic renewal that some previous management used to love to put in there on players. Automatic renewal. Holy man, I still get lagita when that comes up, man. But with Danilo, I actually say you keep him around, and I think he could still offer a good, solid rotational piece in multiple spots till season's end. Just see it out until the season's end. But if the player requests it, do you abide, or do you just say, no, we're going to keep you around? What do you guys think about the old Danilo thing? He's being a professional, number one, though, because nobody has, there's no rumblings at all about any issues being created from it. It's just that he could want to go somewhere and get minutes, right?
Yeah, well, the dude abides. Like if he wants to leave, yeah, let him leave. I don't want to keep anyone against their will, I think. But I kind of think it's more of a media trying to dig out a story from within the Juve locker room of some sort of a rift between the new manager and the old captain, which sounds kind of ridiculous, at least based on what we're seeing from Danilo. Like you said, he seems like a professional. He goes to the fans every time after matches, even when he's not playing. He seems nice in the dressing room and in training. It doesn't seem like there's an issue there. But if he wants to leave, yeah, let him leave, and we can escape the automatic renewal, right? So whatever happens, I'm kind of fine with it. I'm fine with him staying. I'm fine with him going. But let's see how the leaders take a step forward during this season, and then I can tell you if we have enough leadership or not enough.
Yeah. And Trim, your thoughts on Danilo?
Yeah, like from a leadership standpoint, like Omer just touched on, I'm curious to see who else kind of steps up. I know we're gonna talk about that as well. But in terms of Danilo, the player, and for this season, if I'd keep him, same as Omer, like I'm just kind of indifferent to it. I could see him being beneficial and a good piece as a rotational option. Definitely wouldn't be like an everyday starter for me, just because he's getting up there in age and kind of lost a step. But he would be a strong support guy in the back there just to help out. And obviously with his experience, I think that is that's key for us, especially, going into multiple competitions. It wouldn't be a bad thing to just hang on to him. But if the guy wants to leave in January, then you just kind of let him go and go from there. But if we keep him around and then he just, he doesn't meet that automatic renewal and we just let him go at the end of the season, then I'm good with it.
Yeah. So Anthony Skanga coming in here saying on Jonathan David there, he only scores against bottom level League One teams or Antigua. How would you know? You can't even watch another team in Serie A. Guaranteed this guy knows nothing about who David's scoring.
Isn't that what you want from your backup striker, to fill in at those lower table games and score?
Yeah.
Well, he also did score against PSG, but I guess they're bottom feeder.
And that's exactly what I'm expecting from my second striker.
So now we get to the midfield, all right? So the midfield's been a hot topic. Obviously, we're all waiting for time to unleash Luiz, and is today going to be the day? It's supposedly, okay, but we'll talk about that. And then we get to, Skanga says, fair point, as he doesn't... and Omer's right. That's what you want your backup guys to do. But the midfield, Fagioli. So we were getting reports, obviously, about being low on the totem pole, probably next to McKennie there for Fagioli. Any arguments there, number one, in terms of how low he is on the pecking order? And let's just say you have to set up your pecking order for the midfielders. How does it start off? Where does it end? Who is on the bottom? Is Fagioli in the bottom two with McKennie? Or, well, McKennie and Arthur would probably be the bottom two last resorts, I'd say. And then Fagioli.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have him higher than that on your pecking order? Anybody in the chat higher than that?
No, it seems about right.
Higher than Locatelli?
That's where I'm like, based on our group, our chat, this community, a lot of people who are against Luca. I know, Al, you and I are kind of on the same boat. Like, we'll die on a hill for that guy. Like, because I really believe in Luca. That's the only argument I can see where you could say maybe he's at Luca's level. But for me, I still have Luca just a peg higher, let's say. For me, it's Luiz and Coop are clear at the top. I'd argue I have more of a bias for Coop because I'm a really big fan of his, but I can see like the way Luiz plays, like I'm really excited to watch him moving forward, and I really hope that he starts to get more game time and starter minutes because the guy's class. Like I think those two are clear cut, head and shoulders above everybody else. I'd say Luca's just underneath them, and then Fagioli and McKennie.
Yeah. I'm right there. Omer, where do you have him sitting right now?
Yeah, exactly the same. Just a peg behind Lucatelli. I don't think they're the same player, and they provide the same thing on the pitch. I don't think anyone like matches what Thuram brings, the physicality, in terms of height and power and everything, and it was kind of missing against Roma, for example, which Fagioli and Locatelli couldn't offer. So let's say it's just Coop, Douglas, Thuram, Locatelli, and Fagioli.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, he has gotten to play so far. He started 2 of the 3 matches, and there are tons of games. I don't think it's going to be the vow of minutes.
Do we see a breakout season coming from Fagioli this season? Because we were wanting it last season, and obviously we know what happened. Do you think his breakout season is in jeopardy because of all the additions in the middle of the park?
No, I think the additions actually are going to benefit him.
Okay.
Like he can work with better midfielders now in training, take tips from midfielders who's been around the block, and help him evolve. Like he didn't do that with McKennie and Rabiot, just not the same type of player. They don't offer the same thing. That's why he was sorely missed. I don't feel like he's sorely missed now in the midfield. And it's also a question of pairing. Like, who do you pair him with? And does it make sense? Is it what you need in the match right now? You need more Fagioli and less of a Locatelli? Then I would take him first. Like, it's very situational.
He's gonna have to battle because with all these guys, like, if I'm looking at it, you're absolutely right as far as Thuram kind of offers something that's different. Locatelli and Thuram I see can rotate each other, but it's completely different as to what you would get if you wanted one of those guys at the back in the heart, more deeper lying, right? For stability, if you were going to play a 4-1-4-1, and then you've got Luiz and Cope Miners kind of ahead, and that's an opportunity where Fagioli can get into the game and play in a 4-1-4-1. He just has to have way more influence than he started the season, but the season is so early, okay? So he's just got to make the most of the reps he does get. And honestly, you could say that for everybody. Because I don't think Thuram by any means, even offering something unique, whatever, is anything but cemented above these other guys. It's just that it's a different look. The one thing that tells me I'm not concerned about Fagioli breaking out because, number one, it is as cut and dry as Alex P states that if he's good enough, he'll break through. But it's the amount of rotation that Motta uses and the fact that he will change. It'll be a 4-1-4-1, it'll be a 4-2-3-1, or it'll be a flat 3 in the middle. He's utilized all of those. And 2 out of those 3 play well for Fagioli. And we're not going to play the same guys over and over. In one competition last season, because they got bounced out of Copa early, in one competition last season, Motta changed like 2, sometimes 3 every game. From game to game, he changes so much. So he's going to get his opportunities. I'm not concerned. But right now, the way the season started, I would probably say on paper, I had him higher up the ranks, even with these names. And now it's that performance thing. And it's funny because our boy Sev, we had a little private call there last night and Trim was a part of it, but he said, we got to play Man City. And it was in regards to a different player, but he says, are you playing this guy? And I said, how can I make that call now? He goes, what do you mean? No, you play your best. I go, best on paper isn't relative to best on the pitch at that moment going into that game. Form is everything. So Fagioli can definitely write it. On paper, before season start, I would have pegged him higher than a couple of guys and probably vying for that 10 spot. But right now, the way the season started, Yildiz shows a lot in the 10 spot and Cope ain't going anywhere from that 10 spot. So Fagioli's going to have to make do in the middle of the park. Things change very, very quickly. But he is going to get his reps. And he's going to have to make the most of them. It's definitely going to have to be better than what we've seen to start. But every season, he starts off slow. We've seen it every year with Fagioli that he's been around, like for the start of the season. He's been passed by Miretti at the start of every year. But by the end of it, you ain't talking about that. And that's why I'm not worried about Fagioli. Every season start has been slow for him. Every single one. Even in Serie B when he went for that loan in Cremonese and he ended up winning player of the year in that league or whatnot, or young player of the year in that league, he started off slow. He's a notorious slow starter. So no concerns for me when it comes to Fagioli. But the midfield, it's a great problem to have. Luiz, if he doesn't start today, everybody, I'm telling you, something's up. Something's up. But Champions League, because Mota says, no, we prepare. We train, we prepare, we recover, all the same, no matter what match, no changes. Do you sit Luiz and wait to unleash for Champions League? I start him in this game. We're going to get to lineups and everything, but I'm starting him. Are you guys starting Luiz in this game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to put
now
it
feels like it's been enough time
Yeah.
since he signed and the international break, so he got a chance to train quietly and work with Mora, maybe even with less players. So, yeah, let's see what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, and Dragon's saying he has a hunch that Luiz will be rested for PSV. Well, let's see. Del Juve Piero Fagioli is bang average. The kid is about to turn 24. He won't get much better than this. Well, let's see. Again, waiting for that breakout. It may or may not happen. And then we'll have some decisions to make. But I don't think he's a problem coming off the bench.
No. That's
It's
a good
not a
luxury
problem
to have,
coming
right?
off the bench. And if that's what it amounts to, he's not making a lot of money. What his last renewal saw him get, 1 million or 1.1 million till 2028, I think we signed him to? Yeah. I'm not worried about that either. Now, the leadership group at Juventus. So this was named, obviously, with the whole Danilo thing and everything. Gatti, it's Gatti's world, baby. We're just living in it, okay? People have to come to terms with it. We are going to talk about Gatti, but yeah, it's his world now. What a change. But Gatti, Bremer, you have Locatelli, you have Dusan Vlahovic, and Cope Miners spoke interestingly enough about leaders in the group through performances, and he sees himself as being a leader simply by what his job is going to be and what he wants to do. I love that. But this leadership group, will they be able to deliver? Is that a strong leadership? Is that a stronger set of leaders than we had last season? Some of them being the same? Would you have considered Gatti a leader last season?
Well, we have talked about it, and we all kind of made the same point last season. Because we don't have any, like, someone who's a standout leader and captain that everyone agrees on, like the ones we had before, Gatti's name did came up. We have mentioned him, and the only downside was he's kind of a hothead, which is something you normally don't really need in your captain.
That wasn't a downside for me.
Okay.
I've been saying for a couple seasons we need an asshole. And to be fair,
Well, he
he's
can be
toned
an
it down a
asshole.
lot since he's got the armband in the first 3 games. Like he's not
Exactly.
as fiery,
Exactly.
but
That's what he needed. That's
That's
what
what
he
he
needed, in
needed.
my
Yeah.
opinion. Now you have responsibility. Be the same. Just kick the bullshit out, and you don't need your captain getting red carded early in a match or for a stupid foul. That's for other players. But it does seem like he has taken that step forward for now. So yeah,
stronger leadership group than last year.
who were our leaders last year? Like I never looked at
Danilo
Rabiot as
still around.
Rabiot or
Rabiot.
Tech. I didn't see them as good leaders. I think it kind of fell in their lap and they had to be, but it's not how they are.
Yeah.
I don't know that's what I was getting, but I might be wrong.
Better leadership group, Trim, in your opinion?
I think it's a more likable leadership group. They're easy to like, these guys. Like,
Hmm.
and again, yeah, I know Danilo's still here, but obviously him being on the bench, like he can have more of a voice from the bench and just kind of willing on the troops, so to speak. And he can give kind of his opinion from what he sees on the sideline, right? Because sometimes you get a different perspective from there. But in terms of the guys, Vlahovic, Cambiaso, Luca, and who was the other one? I think there was somebody. Bremer. Bremer's in there too. Like that's a pretty
Remember.
solid leadership group, I would say, considering the guys we have. But like you mentioned with the Coop, I think once he gets settled in, I think Luiz as well has the opportunity to get in there too. Just we got to give them time. They're just fresh to the club, right? So I think for the current moment, the guys that were named for Mota that he's kind of turned to, I like that group.
Yeah. Wow. Captain Gatone will lift the Champions League for us
Cool.
one day. Mark my words. Jesus. All
I
right.
hope he has what are one of those things called that you scrape the cement with? He'll have one of those in one hand because of his bricklaying days and the Champions League in the other, and he's just that'd be
Oh
awesome.
man, listen. I
Captain
think
Bricklayer.
something we talked about a lot is just past couple seasons, just culture, the culture at Juve and everything. And I think like it's kind of symbolic right now in where it's going with the leadership because like your culture allows for leaders to emerge when you get it right. And sometimes it could be the guys you least expect, right? And this is kind of like that moment for Gatti, I feel, because if anybody, even though there were shouts for him last season as potentially being this future captain, I don't think anybody would have pegged. And we were all stunned. That's like, oh, Gatti's the captain, like Loca's there and everything. But we made sense of it all and said that's probably better for Locatelli in terms of Trim's point, with Danilo still being around and Locatelli maybe going to be a rotational guy off of the bench, still getting a lot of minutes. It's great to have those guys still as part of a leadership team and leading kind of for the guys that are fighting or on the fringe of the starting 11 and kind of leading from there. You kind of need those guys planted everywhere. Lippi was notorious for a leadership team that involved guys that were on the sidelines for a lot too. Everyone's Conte has his guys planted too. And it's good. But this leadership team for me and the way we're going and what Malta's trying to develop, it makes sense because a lot of these guys, what do they share? What do they share that's in common between all of them? For me, the one thing, even Danilo, if you want to talk about quality and everything, and Gatti, you could talk about the mistakes he made and all that performance wise. These are all the guys that are leaving it all on the pitch, everything they have, regardless of quality or anything. Like they are killing themselves for the cause. And that's the one thing that's consistent amongst all of them. And I don't think it's a surprise when you see these guys on the captain's list or the leader list for Malta and this Juventus. It's no surprise. It's not a surprise at all.
It also, like, you had Buffon and Del Piero and Chiellini and Nedved and Trezeguet and Camoranesi all on the pitch together. They're all considered some sort of leaders. It doesn't seem like it affected any of them differently. They are who they are and they act on the pitch just the way they are. So Leaders are kind of naturally born, and you can immediately see it on the pitch.
The one guy, though, that we got to talk about is Dusan. Because Dusan, in the leader role, he's got to be a leader if you're going to be the top dog by a significant amount in terms of pay. The reports are obviously in a couple, 2-3 weeks, we're going to look at spreading out that money, making it easier annually for Juventus. We'll get our thoughts on whether we think he's going to accept or not, but I heard a week and a half ago this guy is open and willing, and the club is looking at bringing in a sports psychiatrist to help him. We heard Malta speak about it in the past couple days, about working with him and trying to help his mental toughness and everything. But he spoke to all the positives about Vlahovic as well in terms of enthusiasm and all the enthusiasm he brings not only to the group but to Malta individually. He's backing him. We're not going to hear any different right now, okay? And it's very early into the season. But Vlahovic has some work to do to be a leader. Like, I'm not looking at him as a leader right now because I don't think you can be so unstable to the point where you're off your rocker 10 minutes into a game against Roma because a couple things didn't fall your way that early into a game. So I wouldn't do it. So for me, like, I don't really look at him as a leader right now. Do you guys?
I do. Like, to some degree, like, he's the name in the attack, and it does seem like he's trying, at least. Maybe it's not working, maybe it's not going through, maybe it's just too early into the season with a new coach and things were different with Max. I don't know, but I don't get the sense that he's unable or not captain material. He does need some work. That's where the psychiatrists come in, or I'm sure it's a great idea. And those guys and what they have to deal with in terms of social media, stadiums, unfortunately in Italy, racism, being famous, earning a lot of money, that definitely requires professional help to keep your head in place. I think there are a lot of players in the world today who could have had a better career if they had that going on for when they were young and when they got famous. I don't see anything bad with it, having a psychiatrist, professional help.
Yeah. You see George saying, why are we treating him like a patient? There is a lot of professionals that use, like, in sports psychiatry. Like, I've seen it a lot over here in Canada. Hockey's huge, whatever. I've seen it a ton. Part of it is the same as real life situations, is recognizing, number one, if there is an issue there. And if you feel like it's an issue, if Dusan's happy with what he's doing and isn't willing to work on it, then we don't have no problem and we're not treating him as a patient. But if he's recognizing it, if coaches want him to not bring that out, then it's something that has to be worked on. Ultimately, it's going to be the people that Dusan is working for. He's working for people. If they think that that's an issue, I don't know, what do you do? Do you let him keep running around like that, doing that, and just let it continue? I don't think that's a solution.
What's the counter case to helping him with a psychiatrist? Because I don't see any downside. So maybe fill me in on what people are saying.
I'm not sure. It's just like, why are we? The comment was just, why are we treating him like a patient? Well, obviously they assume that there's an issue there, and to be fair, everyone has talked about it. His national team coach has talked about it. Max Allegri has talked about it. Now Malta's talking about it. It's been everyone. I don't know about the Fiorentina days because things were good and he was up and coming and everything was rolling. Life was good. But things change when a team like Juventus pays a lot of money for you and you're the top earner. Things change. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think of it as a bad thing. Like, I mean, the guy clearly sees somewhere a weakness, let's say, that he wants to try to stabilize and work on, and I don't think it's a bad thing. But to tie it into whether he's a leader or not, Al, I know you're kind of like, you wouldn't consider it at this moment. I actually think it's a good thing that he is emotional in the sense that he is getting frustrated because he just wants to succeed and do well so badly. And you can see how much like kind of like Gatti, like these guys really care to wear the shirt, and also they take and bear the weight of the responsibility of wearing the armband. So like even with Duchamp, like I think it would be a good thing if in future matches like we saw in the preseason where he wore the armband, like he really took it to heart and he wants to lead by example. So it doesn't come off well on the pitch when you do see him getting frustrated, because we know the end result is he'll get in his own head and then his production starts to drop. But the fact that he's trying to address it with a psychiatrist is huge, I think.
It is. It's great that he's open and willing. If this in fact happens, because I'm waiting for some actual confirmations. Aldo says sports psychologists can also just help change mentality and help put energy into more productive thoughts and emotions. It could be positive for some players. I actually, when this came up and we had the discussion, I literally said, like, this could actually be good for not just Vlahovic, but several players that could need it. It's not a bad thing by any means, but what the key is that Vlahovic may believe that it's just these moments in the game, but what happens when you open yourself up to like a sports psychologist? They'll actually get to the root, and it may not actually be all these little moments in a game, and it could be something bigger, like his contract and the pressure he feels. Maybe it's the criticism. Maybe it's the fact that we know he's on social media and he's looking at everything, because he kind of made that apparent with the whole Cope Miners thing when he walks into the thing and he's like, oh, every day I read this, I check this. Like, he's well aware of the criticisms he faces and the scrutiny he's under at Juve. Again,
it also is there to prevent future problems. You don't only want to do it in hindsight when a player is already down and now you have to treat him. Maybe Fagioli wouldn't have gotten into everything he got into if he had sports psychologists helping him.
Fagioli saw one after his whole ordeal.
Yeah, maybe it could have been prevented. That's the goal, to prevent players from getting to that state of mind in the first place.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, and props to him if this does get confirmed and he's willing to go that route and whatnot. It would be a big positive, and I think would help him a long way. It's one of a couple things that need to step up there, but I'm still overall on his side, and I think come season's end, we'll be having a different discussion, but it'll be one storyline that's going to be followed throughout, no doubt. Gatti, we do have to get back to Gatti real quick, because the contract renewal discussions that are there that we're set to finalize to 2029, adding an additional year. We literally just renewed him, in the past 3 months? Past 3 or 4 months, I think, was his last renewal, taking him to 2028 with a pay hike. Now he's getting almost double. He's going to finish at around 2.3 million net. 2.8 would be totally doubled. And I'm just saying, why? Like, what's the harm? And I know that the numbers aren't big. It doesn't hurt us or anything, but like, it's great to see him what he's doing now. We had a lot of discussion about him and everything, but like, nothing has actually been achieved or accomplished at this point. So are we setting ourselves up for every 3 games we're going to be looking at, oh yeah, we're going to have to increase, that's another good 3 games, that's another good 3 games. Obviously that wouldn't be the case, and that's a big exaggeration, but like, set the tone somewhat that let's wait to the second half of the season. A lot can change. I don't understand the jump to always with these renewals and whatnot. I understand, hey, you could be locking them in for this to 2029, etc. Do you think that if come season's end, he hits it big and clubs are coming in, they were coming in apparently this past summer for 30 million euros. Whether that's true or not, we'll see. But if teams are coming in with solid offers and everything, you don't think he would ask maybe for a little bit more and be like, look, these teams are after me for whatever, willing to offer me 4.5 or 5 a season. Can we step up my 2.3? It doesn't change anything. So why not just wait? Just wait and just see. I don't know.
there's it seems to be a theme with Juve, with Giuntoli, those small renewals by one area. It did that with a lot of players, like even just this summer. And I don't know why. I don't know what's the goal behind it, what it's supposed to achieve. But I'm sure he has a reason. I can't see it. And like if I'm digging deep, it's exactly what you just said. It's maybe Gatti has a market and he either wants to get more money for him if he's sold, or just secure him staying at the club for longer. That those are the only options I can see. I'm sure Juntoni has something different in mind.
Yeah. So you just think there's something behind it, whatnot. Trim, how do you feel about these early renewals?
Yeah, it's just odd that there's been like consecutive ones within a few months. Like that's where it's kind of strange. And yeah, like you're tying yourself to a guy that you see potentially being here long term, going out on the pitch, being a captain right now. So I understand it a little bit, but yeah, just I'm kind of with you on this one, Berto, in the sense of like, you renewed him 3 months ago. Okay, let's just keep it at that and let at least the year play out, see what happens, go from there. But I don't know. I just even with the stuff from the rumors about this summer, teams coming in and potentially offering upwards of 30 million for him and us turning it down. I find that kind of hard to believe. I don't know. Like as much as we all like Gatti and appreciate what he brings to the club, I think that if a club actually really offered us 30 million for him, we probably would have let him go because we could have easily split that around or spread it around to upgrade in that
So let's
position.
look at it.
I think the
Let's look
kicker
at it in
was
a
I
different
think the
way.
kicker is Bremer. Because I think that they believe that maybe down the line, and this could have to do with the captaincy as well, as someone that's going to probably be around long term. And I think the kicker might be Bremer.
Yeah,
Might
that's
be like they've done it a lot. Even the players we've just signed, the ones that actually signed, are not on loan, are all like having contracts to 2028, 29, which kind of gives Juve maybe a bit of a breathing room for at least 3 summers now. And maybe that's their plan, to not have like a case of some player having a contract ended every year and the main guys are all down to the same year, 2029 or 2028. I don't know. I'm looking for scraps of reason. Maybe it's just for the books.
Yeah.
That's basically it, looking forward with the books.
It's just
But I
it's
don't know.
not a huge issue. It's just something that I find
No.
interesting that we're so quick to jump the gun sometimes on certain extensions. But the Gatti one, I mean, so far it's good. But again, let's achieve something. Let's set a tone like that. Some things are being handed out a little too freely. And I think maybe Yildiz, we've had a lot of discussions about Yildiz, could be kind of in that same scenario because there were a lot that were saying he needs over 1 million for well, like he's literally starting to get a bunch of minutes, like let's see, and gets the 10, etc. So again, some things being handed out, and it all plays part into Juntali's kind of culture and what we're going to be seeing here. So let's just see. There's some signs that show he might be tough, strict, etc., and then there's others that are still a little freewheeling. We'll see. But today it's all about Empoli Juve as we return to action, okay? And we'll look at Empoli first. Their manager, first off, D'Aversa, is actually going to be facing a touchline ban, so he won't even be on the sidelines for them. And they also have some missing players that are considered pretty important to them, with Zerkowski out, Ubehi, and Perisen all out. We expect 3-4-2-1 from them, and we know what we're going to see in terms of the game. And Mota, he called it out immediately in the pregame, and that's going to be a low block. So they are going to set up 5 across the back. They're going to look to hit us, okay, on counters, etc. It's going to be maybe to the level of Roma with less quality in terms of what they're going to be looking to doing. But yeah, they're going to, I think we're going to control things, but they're going to make it very difficult to find spaces and everything. Again, some of the kickers for us, Colt Miners remained. Didn't go for international duty, and He will be well integrated. He's expected to be in that 10 role. If for our lineup, well, this is what we were seeing, but we've heard contradictions to it, obviously. Di Gregorio in goal, Savona, Gatti, Bremer, Cabal, Locatelli, Luiz, Cambiaso on the right wing with Colt Miners in the 10, Yildiz on the left, and Vlahovic there. This is the main one that we've heard out there. I have heard of Luiz not starting. I have also seen ones where Cambiaso is occupying one of the fullback roles and Savona is not in there. And then we have Imbangula on the right side. Guys, chat, how do we feel about this actual projected lineup that is on the screen here? And would you change anything if you were going to change? And yes, we obviously did hear about Kalulu as well, playing potentially for Savona. So how do you guys feel about this graphic that's up here? Is this what you would go with?
No.
What would you go with?
I mean, I have no issues with it, but I do think it's a good opportunity to play some of the guys who haven't played yet. I would move Cambiaso to left back, let Cabal rest because he's back from matches with Colombia, and Nico Gonzalez, Kalulu, and the rest of it seems fine. There were some percentages thing of Lucatelli or Thuram and Luiz or whoever, Fajoli, I don't know, but it seems fine. It should be enough against Empoli. I do expect more attacking play. I mean, Roma nullified us by holding the ball and just passing it around the back for long stretches of the match. And when we had the ball, they were just parking the bus, shutting it all down. And I don't think Empoli has the quality to do the same thing of holding the ball, but they are going to look for counterattacks. That's why I might prefer Kalulu and Cambiaso as fullbacks, just to deal better with counterattacks. That's my point of view.
And this one is the latest as of I don't know how many minutes ago. So now you see Kalulu is there, and Nico Gonzalez up on the right. Cambiaso out on the left. So there you go, Omer. This is pretty much exactly what we're talking. Locatelli and Luiz in there. Colt Miners. That's good. I like that. I really, really like this one. And I would probably go this route as well. Trim.
Yeah, I prefer this lineup too. And the reason being is because we'll allude to it when we do our predictions, Al. But I know you and I were both saying, I fear that this first half, the start of this game, is going to be very similar to what we saw against Roma. So if we start this lineup, I'd like to try to put the game away as early as possible. You know, get one, maybe hopefully a second by halftime. And then you can start to do a little bit more rotation so that we can rest some guys for Tuesday, because we got a big game coming up on Tuesday. So for me personally, I'd like to see this lineup because I also want to see the top guys from the start. We have yet to see that yet because of the integration and the fact that we've signed a couple guys later on at the end of the window, like Coop. So now that these guys have all been around and been able to train with Mota and the squad for a little while, I'd like to see like what we deem or feel as close to our number one lineup starting today, and just, like I said, try to put the game away as early as possible and then work on some rotation after the fact.
Yeah, it's for me, one of the big things too is Cambiaso. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'll be quite honest. I don't see it as a right winger. Like when he's up there, he can do it. He can get away with it. But if you've got the options, I'd much rather the guys that are actually wingers going up there. We see the shouts for Thuram. He just coming back too, but they were training in full with the squad. So some that are saying, we shouldn't go with Thuram this game, whatnot. I'm not going nuts over the midfield because there's a lot of options, but like Douglas Luiz has to start.
Yeah.
Like he's got to start. He's got to get in there. He's got to start rolling. No more cameos. Enough's enough. Unleash Douglas Luiz. All right.
Teach me how to
Cambiaso is a right winger in a pinch only for me. that guy should be occupying left back or right back. Cabal made complete sense because he just got back from international duty and rather late as well. So makes complete sense. Cabal going forward is a player I really, really like though. And I think he's going to be one of those big signings that we picked up for like 12 million. Payable over 3 years too on 12 million. Massive deal. Like that'll be fantastic. But this game, we're going to get to some key stats. We're going to talk about the player to watch in this game, who we think is going to be the player to watch. And of course, we're going to take on the prediction challenge and then storm the barn, my absolute favorite. All right, so let's get to it. And I think we have one already from George earlier on that's in there, which we'll cover. But key stats, Empoli unbeaten in 6 home games across all competitions, of course, stemming into last season. Empoli have lost 6 of their last 7 home games against Juve. Juve have faced the fewest shots on target in Europe's top 5 leagues so far with only 2. Di Gregorio been having naps back there, okay? In terms of Juve, we have kept a clean sheet in the last 4 matches in Serie A, obviously dating back to the final one of last season. Juve have won 6 of the last away to Empoli. And the player to watch in this one, for me, even though it's Dougie time, it's going to be Colt Miners. Colt Miners is my player to watch in this one. And why? Because of our final third play against Roma, and Roma was the team that parked the most against us in the first opening 3 matches. It was the one that lacked the most fluidity. It was the one that was most clunkiest, and I expect a clunky game today. So the final third is going to be critical, and Colt Miners was literally brought in for that. My eyes will be watching Colt Miners and how he opens things up and creates for us in that role. Player to watch for you, Omer.
Just take your pick between Luiz, Coop Miners, and Nico. 3 new signing. I think Nico is kind of, because he eventually wasn't the big signing of the summer, so it's kind of, we would have expected more if we didn't sign Coop and Douglas Luiz. He would be the guy that where Juve splashed some money, and he was Fiorentina's best player, hands down. And so I'm expecting actually a lot from him because of his familiarity with the league, his age, and so yeah, I'm looking at him for kind of solve that issue, that right winger issue, and be the starter for most of the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's say Nico. I'm keeping a close eye on Nico. Today.
So we got Cope, we got Nico. Trim, who's your player to watch today?
Oh, I gotta go with my guy Coop, man. I've been wanting to watch him play for us for a while. Like, obviously he got some minutes against Roma, and I was out in Sorrento watching the game at a bar with a Liverpool fan. I got stuck with this guy. Anyway, we'll leave that for another day. But so I got to watch a little bit of him, but I didn't really get to appreciate it because of the way the game played out. It was just kind of a crappy game, right? So I think today he's going to really make a huge difference, not only for Vlahovic, but also like Yildiz, and if it's Nico on the right side or whoever's playing that right side as well, I think he's going to really make a big impact, and maybe even look for him to bag his first Juventus goal. You never know. We'll have to see. But that daunting Empoli low block, we'll have to see if we can crack that today or not. But
yeah,
I think we got it.
I'm expecting a clunky, tight one. Obviously Empoli coming in here undefeated with 1 game and a couple of draws, but still very, very good positive start for them to have 5 points out of the opening 9 for Juve. Same thing, undefeated. The 1 draw against Roma, which we left a lot to be desired just in terms of our attack. Everything else seemed to be okay. There was really only 1 dangerous moment from Roma and a couple of errors that we allowed them to get something. That's one thing that's kind of been constant with this Juve is the best opportunities or sequences coming back against us come from our errors. There are still errors there. There are going to be errors throughout the season. It happens. It's football. But the final third and sorting it out, Now you've got some key guys that were brought in. You spent a lot of money on. I'm looking for it to ramp up now. These guys have to deliver, because on paper is one thing, on the pitch is where it counts and matters the most. So yeah, Nico will be looked at as well. Colt Miners will be looked at, and Douglas Luiz. Like, these guys need to carry the weight for this squad. So yeah, let's see.
I would also look at Ildiz. He's like the go-to guy on the left. Like, if we're playing a big team, he's the first name on the left flank, right?
Yeah.
He has to take the reins and make that position his. It's nice to have Mbangula, and maybe Conceição can play there, but I really want Ildiz to start owning that position. And we have some unfinished business with Empoli. Both the 1-1 that kind of derailed last season, in a sense. And before that, they were the first game after Juve got deducted points again, and they beat us 4-1. I feel like we have an unfinished business with them. And I kind of want to thrash them in their own home.
I'd love a thrashing. We'll get to predictions in a bit, what I think. But referee for this one, Marco Di Bello, 162 Serie A matches, 5 yellows per game, 50 red cards in total through 162, dished out 61 penalties. The last time he officiated a Juve game, I believe, was Verona. Yes, it was February 17th against Verona in the 2-2 draw that saw Vlahovic score on a penalty in the 28th minute, and then Rabiot with the equalizer after we were down 2-1 in the 55th minute. So that's the last time we saw him. And he was also responsible for the wild Lazio-Milan game that saw Lazio get 3 reds last season. That was Marco Di Bello. So we've got him today. And it's time for the predictions. Okay, you guys know the drill. Final score, 2 tiebreakers. Let's let it fly. And I'm going to kick things off because I find everybody hits mine. So I don't want, the classic, hey, you're just jumping on... riding coattails here and whatnot. 2-0 Juve.
You are.
No, I'm not. 2-0.
God damn it.
1-0 for a large part of this match. Okay? I'm going to get crazy here. I'll go into detail. Okay? Juve scores between the 20th and 30th minute, and we don't add the second until late in this game after the 83rd minute. Okay? So 1-0 for a large part, and then we close it off at 2-0. I would love to be wrong and it to be a comfortable 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. Let's go. But I have a feeling it's going to be a grind. But we'll go 1-0 up and carry that until late. 2-0. So tiebreakers, we see under his average for yellows. Okay, so I'm going to say we get 3 yellows, I'll say, in this game. And goals... Yildiz gets on the score sheet today against Empoli. That's my prediction. Trim, fire away.
All right. Well, this is, I think, my first one, so I'm pretty pumped for it. Well, after what we witnessed against Roma, international break, I'd like to be all gung-ho, go with kind of a soiree prediction of 7-0, but I think that's a little excessive. I'm going to actually go 1-0 Juve. It's going to be a lot tighter and a lot closer than we would like and we would hope. And I'm going with Vlahovic to get the goal. I think he's going to crush one by the keeper. I think they'll get one early, middle of first half. So it'll be a first half and we'll drag it out 1-0. For my tiebreakers, I'm going to go with, well, actually one of them is Vlahovic goal, and the second one I'll go with, I'm going to say 6 yellows today. I think this ref's going to be card happy, and live up to his rep. So I'm going to go with 6 yellows and a Vlahovic.
All right.
Vlahovic brace.
Wow.
Oof. Okay. So, yeah.
Did you change it to 2-0, Trim?
No.
No,
I said because you said Vlahovic brace. I was like, what?
Well, yeah, he's gonna score, so Vlahovic brace. That's it.
Braces too.
Oh, okay. Sorry. 1 goal then. There you go.
Yeah. I was so confused. I'm like, what? Are you messing with me? Too early. Too early over here, like
Embrace.
before 7 a.m. Omer.
Yeah.
So let's go 3-0. Um,
Three.
Tiebreaker. Okay, we're going to have a goal from set pieces, at least one, and I'm going with a free kick goal. Just
Free
because
kick.
I think, yeah, I think we're going to be around their area a lot, and we're going to get the fouls we want. And we have now Vlahovic, Coop, Douglas Luiz. Just take your pick. One of them scores a free kick today.
Hmm.
All right. All right. I like it. I like it. There we go. We
Mhm.
got everybody in here. We got this is the one I want to happen the most. Suarez 7-0.
Yeah.
Not for Empoli though, for us. Deschilio double hat trick. Holy
Jesus.
God. I forgot about Lord Deschilio. Lord Deschilio with the higher EAFC rating than Kenan Yildiz. That might be the most criminal thing I've ever seen in my life. But hey, is what it is. 2-0 from George with a Yildiz goal. So yeah, there we go. Similar to mine. We have some time. A little bit of time. We're going to tackle some Storm the Barn, everybody. For the match, you guys know the drill. I am going to be rocking the watch along, all right? Hope to see you all there. It's going to be 30 minutes roughly before kickoff, maybe like 20 minutes before kickoff. We'll jump on and then get hyped up for this one as Juve returns to action. Now, Storm the Barn. George, I think we can all agree that we need a ball-playing center back. Who would be your number one choice for a ball-playing center back? I'm going to be quite honest. I'm not worried about it until, like, obviously in the summer, you can look to address and whatnot. But with the midfield we have, just get the fucking ball to the midfielders. Seriously.
Yeah.
You don't need to fuck around that much. Like, it's painful sometimes to see. But with Luiz in there especially now, and then look on the other side, it's like, just find these guys. Find these guys. And if everybody's doing their job up top, hitting the pockets of space they need to, if the wingers are holding their width, it'll be just fine. But I don't see it as this crazy like need right now. People were talking about in the Roma game. And for me, it's like, that wasn't, if that didn't come out as a huge issue to me. The huge issue in the Roma match for me was Cambiasso and Yildiz occupying similar spaces and ending up giving nobody options. Wingers were open. They were saying we couldn't get the ball to them. No, they weren't. Cambiasso was hardly on the flank. He was centrally, like, literally next to Yildiz so much. Our shape wasn't as ideal as we needed it to be. But the midfielders, more often than not, when they got the ball, didn't have the options they needed to breaking the lines. And when they did, they actually did a decent job of doing it. There's something missing. But overall, against Roma, the final third was just brutal. The decision making in the final third and what they were doing, like in terms of execution, that was a bigger thing. I'm not that crazy about a ball playing center back right now. I don't think it's like going to be this massive detriment because of how strong our midfield is. Do you guys agree, disagree? And who would be your ball playing center back, your top choice?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I think we kind of need to move on. We are not signing ball playing center back anytime soon, at least until January. So we'll have to make do with what we have. And if I had to pick, I'll take the two City guys, either Guardiola or Akanji. Those would be my top picks right now.
All right. Trim, how do you feel about the whole ball playing center back?
Yeah, I think it's still early. I mean, we haven't seen enough game time and game action to really criticize or critique where our weakness is. Like, we've had flashes in some of the first 3 games, but I still think, like you said, we can get away with advancing the ball from the back to the middle of the park and let the midfielders take care of that. So I wouldn't say it's a pressing issue right now. If I had to pick a guy, I mean, recency bias, obviously, I'd probably say Calafiori, but the thing is, I don't know how willing he'll be to want to leave Arsenal after a season. I mean, if he sits on the bench even all year, like, I don't know, it's hard to say. But I do like Omar show for Vardiol. Like he's the one guy that before he went to City, I was really hoping we were maybe looking at him. Obviously, price tag at the time too was tough for Juve. We didn't have a lot of money to spend, and what he went for at City was a big number. So I'd probably say him. But yeah, like right now, I think the obvious and the easy pick is Calafiori, but at the same time, I don't think it's something we need right now.
Yeah, I'm not. And I mean, obviously, things can change rapidly, so we wait and see. But right now, I don't think it's going to be that pressing. Okay, and I know that there's some out there just going nuts over this ball playing center back. I don't think it's going to be this massive detriment, not with this midfield. Aldo says we don't need a ball playing center back. We need a ball carrying center back, and that's what Motta likes most. Everybody's got their thoughts on it and whatnot, but again, against Roma, I don't think that was an issue. We were getting final third. We just made a mess. Yeah. And with Cambiaso, I got to highlight this comment because it makes me laugh and it does feel kind of accurate, but no matter where we play Cambiaso, it seems like he wants to be somewhere else. So that's actually funny and feels accurate when you're watching the games out. But he's an effective player and he can play in multiple different roles, but he does not keep width as a winger. And it does change the dynamics for everything else that goes on in Motta's game. We talked about this a lot. He likes getting wingers in 1v1 scenarios. Yeah, Cambiaso doesn't allow for that in how he plays that role. Now, Claudio, which players do you not want to see 90 minutes because of Champions League in a few days? So players you don't want to see get full 90 today because of PSV on Tuesday.
Not get full 90. I would have to say Dusan, which makes me think Nico wouldn't start because of Milik's injury. Motta already subbed Nico for Vlahovic. He's kind of maybe now occupying the second striker position.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of those guys. I mean, Yildiz probably. I think throwing Bangula in is kind of.
It's going to depend on how the game goes, but yeah. I'd like to see Vlahovic. I'd like to see Colt Miners, Luiz, probably Yildiz. I'd probably say those guys I'd like to see come off and not play a full 90. But also, I'm not terribly concerned with it. I think coverage is good enough. PSV, like no disrespect to them or anything, but I'm not overly, concerned with who gets 90 in this game and who doesn't. Not to look past them or look beyond them, but I think there is a good amount of coverage outside of Vlahovic, to be quite honest. The Vlahovic thing for me and Nico playing there, I don't know. Like, I don't really know about that whole plan in not bringing in a Vice Vlahovic and going with Nico there. I'm not so sure about it.
It's because Milik is injured. That's the only reason I said it. When Milik comes back, it wouldn't be the
But that's not enough coverage. Last year we had Keane and Milik both injured. That's not enough. So if the plan is just temporary for Nico being back there, then they kind of drop the ball because that's not a game plan. That's not a game plan to just roll with Vlahovic and Milik, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So
fully agree.
I think, I don't know.
I would also maybe look at, for this game specifically, like in terms of rest, I'd look at maybe taking Bremer out because we're pretty deep at the back and we got some CBs that can jump in there. Because remember, on the flip side of PSV, we got Napoli. So that's another kind of the kicker for this week. Like you mentioned,
we're going to spank Napoli.
3 games in 7 days. We're going to spank them, but I'm more worried about.
By the way,
turnaround.
First time for Conte at the stadium with fans.
Yeah, so we can all give him the fucking
yeah.
All right. First time back, and we're gonna spank him. Love for him to just. I want to just create this rage inside of him that just makes the whole Napoli operation explode. And then Lukaku's left there in this bloody mess at Napoli, and they spent 35 or whatever on him, and Conte bails out, and it just crumbles, and their dynasty comes to an end. Now, Aldo. Luiz, if Luiz doesn't convince Mota at center mid, what do you think of him as a vice for Cope? I don't think he currently has the intensity that Mota wants at the midfield role. I'm going to be quite honest here, Aldo. I see no way that Luiz doesn't impress in any spot in the midfield. I'll be quite honest. I don't see it.
I don't think intensity is a must. How intense was Pirlo when he played?
Yeah.
Like you can
I
work around it.
I do not see a situation where Luiz doesn't impress. I mean, he's made cameos for God's sakes, and you could see the elevation in quality immediately. Like when he's on the ball, it's gross how much better when he stepped into that game. It was Luca Fagioli pivot, whatever. He comes in. It was ridiculous how much better it was with him on the ball. He allows those, and he does this similar to some of the best midfielders out there, not calling him the best midfielder out there, but he buys that time for things to open up because of how good he is on the ball. And it makes everyone else around there better because it gives them that extra time to beat their man or find that pocket of space or hit the space they need to hit. I see no way he doesn't convince Malta. And
Yeah,
if
I
he were
agree
to
with
play
George
as
here.
a vice cope, I also think he could do that role. I also believe he could do that role if it came down to it. But as one of the two pivots or as one of the two Metsalas in a 4-1-4-1, this guy he's going to impress. He's going to
I think
impress.
I think it's his
I agree
demeanor.
with George here. Like playing in the Premier League, that's like the most intense league, and he did just fine.
Yeah.
So why should we consider that he
I'm
wouldn't do just as well for Juve?
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. I think
Yeah.
he'll be just fine. Just fine. Holy smokes, favorite Juventus memory. Woo!
Oh,
Woo!
jeez.
Hmm.
I'm going to be quite honest, especially just how everything's gone, but mine will easily be where things kind of elevated for me. And obviously, that was 1996, that Champions League win. Watching my dad get emotional and yeah, just that's gonna probably be it because that's where things really started to get intense for me. That was 3 years, yeah, just shy of 3 years into me starting to kind of watch Juve with my dad and get into it and everything. But it's easily 1996, the Champions League.
Yeah, I think mine would probably be the first Conte season. Just that everything that happened during that season, the shift from the previous two seasons, it was just everything you wanted a lot sooner than it seemed. Like because of the seasons we had before that, and unbeaten Conte coming back to revamp Juve. All the signings were spot on. We did fine without even a top tier striker, and it was just so refreshing to knock both Milan and Inter off the throne and then continue to nine different Scudettis. But that was the one.
Yeah. Claudio, watching them win the Scudetto live, amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. Amazing. Trim,
Yeah.
favorite Juve memory?
Favorite Juve memory? There's so many, but I would have to say because I was pretty young when they won UCL, but I would say like the 2 seasons to follow with Zidane and Del Piero. That's really what started it for me. Just those guys were unreal, and just being able to get catch glimpses of it, and that's what started my fandom. That's where I got my first kit sent to me from family. So I'd have to say those late '90s runs that they had, although they didn't end up winning they could have won back to back or even three-peat Champions League those years. I would say it was definitely those early stages, and then we had stuff after that go on. We had like the 2002 season. That was a great season, obviously. So yeah, I would say those late '90s,
The
those late
two
'90s teams with Zidane and Del Piero.
the Cinque Maggio was incredible.
Yeah,
Like, that was
Unreal.
ridiculous. And the intensity and the phone calls between my dad and his friends and everybody keeping eyes on everything, it was absolutely hilarious. It was
Yeah.
chaos. That's going to be up there for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, it's great stuff. I get asked this question a bunch, obviously with collections and whatnot. It's kind of a little bit morbid, I guess, but they're like they're saying like you're about to be buried. What kit are you getting buried in? I go, why can't you just ask me if I could only wear one kit for the rest of my life? Like, that's a better way to pose the question, okay? But that was how it was posed to me, and I laughed and I go, guys, what are we talking about here? But one kit, you can rock one Juve kit. That's it. You got to get rid of the rest. You can only keep one. What kit are you keeping?
Oh,
And I was
that's
like, oh my God, I can only keep one?
that's tough. There's a lot of great ones, obviously.
I'm not going to
Jeez.
lie to you. Like, this one, the one you're rocking right now, Trim, is literally an instant classic. Like,
Yeah.
that kit is ridiculous. This new third. They've sold out. Like, it's ridiculous. They're waiting for restock. They said that's literally why one of the main reasons my order got stuck is they just were all out of sorts there because of how the sales went nuts for those kits. That third, that is an instant classic, and I'm not gonna lie, like, it's up there for one of my favorites already of all time. Hopefully some memories can be built into this kit because it is absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. It's
I
up
went
there.
to a wedding yesterday and I put it on and took it off like 3 times. Like, should I go with it? No. Should I?
Oh yeah.
Eventually,
That's the
the
beauty
only
of it. You
reason I
can rock
didn't,
that thing anywhere, man. It's
yeah,
class.
the only reason I didn't do it is because it's super hot and it was like a noon wedding.
Yeah.
So I was probably going to sweat in a football shirt. But if it was nighttime, hands down, I
Yeah.
would have gone with it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be class.
It's up there, but I'd again, if we're talking about favorite memories and everything, I'd have to go 95, 96 away as just one of my all-time. I just love that kit. Absolutely iconic. That's probably the kit I go with. And oddly enough, that is the latest giveaway. So everyone that's subscribed, good luck. September 30th is going to be the draw date. And best of luck to you. That's our next kit giveaway. And I've got the rest following up immediately ready for that as well. But that's the kit I'd go with. 95, 96 away. Only one. Only one.
Hmm.
What are you guys
I have a
rocking?
tough
Only
time.
one.
I have a tough time choosing between 15, 16 black and gold kit or the 97, 98 Sony mini disc. Those are the two that I'm like struggling with. This kit obviously is also an honorable mention, but like if I had to choose between those two, I'd probably go 15, 16 because it's just pure class, black and gold. The accents just like I don't know, it's just something about that one. A lot of memories with that season too, and in that kit. Um, yeah, I would have to say probably 15, 16,
All
black and
right.
gold.
15, 16. That's a classic. That's a classic. Omar, one
Yeah,
kit.
that was my pick. I guess we look at the third kit of this season like in 5 years' time. We look at it the same way,
Yeah.
depending on how the season goes, of course. But yeah, 15, 16, the black one was just pure
There we
class.
go. There we go. We got another one coming in here from Mark. He goes, what is one unpopular Juve opinion that you have? Mine, Higuain was a horrible signing and was the beginning of the end of the cycle. 94 million for a 2-year window. Awful. Wow. What is one unpopular Juve opinion I have?
I had one for a long time, but then I kind of it changed after we didn't have him anymore. Then I realized his importance, but I didn't consider Marquisio like the top guy in the midfield
Hmm.
that everyone made him out to be. I think he was instrumental, but for the contest season. But once Pogba took over, I mean, he was the odd man out for me between those four, like Pirlo, Vidal, and Pogba and Marquisio. If I had to bench one of them, it would have been Marquisio.
Okay. Trim?
This is a tough one, actually. Trying to put some more thought into it. I think the one that stands out right away, love the guy, legend, but I think bringing Buffon back from PSG to finish his career, like I don't know. I understood it. It made sense, and we like in North America we have like the 1 day contracts to sign it and then
Yeah.
retire. Something like that. Like if they had done that, I guess I would have been like more like okay, that makes sense. But to have him come back, he actually did play a bit. He wasn't terrible, but just like I would have just been good with him. Just fine, either going back to Parma or something. He did end up going back there, but I just mean like him bringing him back. Like I was a little like I don't know, it was kind of weird. So I'd say that was probably an unpopular one because I know a lot of people were happy to have him back, and but I
Yeah.
would say that one.
Yeah. That's it. That's an interesting one. I have always felt this one. It became unpopular. It was unpopular just because of the amount. And then we went out, and it's funny. It ties into Mark's because he says that was the beginning of the end. But I said at that time, I remember being at the time, and people were like, "Are you crazy?" I would not have sold Paul Pogba despite his
Yeah,
will being to go. It was a major unpopular one I had, but I was like, I don't care what his will is. I wouldn't sell him. I wouldn't sell him right now. I think it's better off for him. I think he's making a mistake by wanting to go back there. I understand why he wanted to go back there, but I said I'd be like, sorry, we don't want to sell you. Like, we're not. But again, ton of money. We dumped it on Higuain. Some feel that Higuain never lived up to that, but man, that was a big mistake, and I feel like the team shouldn't have just gone with it because of the funds and everything, and I think we would have been better off if he stayed around. I think his career, everything would have just been better off in general. But hey, things happen. As far as Higuain goes, I think another unpopular one and would have been, but it wasn't really at the time, but he kind of got done dirty too. So to say it was 2 year window wasn't necessarily his fault because we brought Ronaldo in, having Higuain there and everything, and then it was like, hey man, we're loaning you out and we're trying to offload you, and it was just it was a rough go. That was a rough go. But Higuain was really good, man. The pairing with him and Dybala was unbelievable. And he scored a lot of clutch goals for us. A lot of
He
clutch goals.
immediately settled in. Immediately.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like Pipita for me is I really, really enjoyed his time, man. And him and Dybala were just sick. So yeah. Interesting Storm the Barns getting into favorite Juventus memory, talking about unpopular Juve opinions. Any current unpopular ones? We'll see if we try and finish off one. Jury's out maybe on a couple of, I have like, it's not really necessarily an unpopular opinion, but it's just a feeling that with the young guys, I think we get very, very protective. I think the fan base can be very, very protective and maybe sometimes have blinders on with young guys. I've got my eyes on one that I don't know. I don't know. And I don't want to let it all out there. I kind of did in the preview show and got some mixed reactions. I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest here. But yeah, take it easy with the young guys, everybody. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Remember how worried we were, though, in the summer? And then in Bangula out of nowhere,
Yeah.
Yildiz getting all these minutes and he's going to be ripping. It's like there's nothing to be concerned about. Cabal's
well,
not old. How old's Cabal? 23?
Yeah,
20.
something like that.
23 or 24? Like, not old by any means.
Yeah.
Well, and
Not
there's
old
one
by
guy
any
we
means.
actually forgot to touch on who might make an appearance today, which is Adzic, because he's in the roster.
Adzic.
I think
Mhm.
he's called up today, so we'll see if he gets in there.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool when you hear, and I mean, it plays into everything I'm talking about with pump the brakes on the young guys, but Mota being like, hey, he stays with us early on in the early days of camp. That's cool to hear. Props
Yeah,
to Adzic. I think he's got a long way to go to get minutes in that role though on this
yeah,
team
yeah, of
with the
course.
players there. But hey, who doesn't like a battle for a starting spot? I love them. So all the more power to him if he can get his name on the sheet a few times. Absolutely love it. But that wraps up everything for today in the pre-match, guys. Empoli Juve set to go down. We're not far away from it either. We're an hour and 40 minutes from the match, 20 minutes before kickoff. Hope to see you all back here for the watch along. The predictions are in. 2-0 from me, 1-0 from Trim, 3-0 from Omer. All right, let's see who nails it today. Can't wait for this game back from international break and then Champions League again. Post-match is going to be tomorrow. Tuesday, we're going to get the preview show going, and I'm going to be, there's a straw. I think we're 90% that there's going to be a watch-along for the first Champions League game of the season as well, all right? So, again, we'll see you all very, very soon here, reconvene for this watch-along. Fino alla fine, Forza Juventus, Empoli. Let's make them another victim today, all right? Trim, Omer, always an absolute pleasure. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in a bit. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.